Hey, a couple of quick things this morning. One is on Evergrande. So trading is suspended in China and on the Hong Kong exchange. As you know, the China markets is still on holiday. It'll last through, I believe, Thursday of this week because of the 7-day Golden Week holiday. There's a lot of speculation on why it was suspended. So one reason was because one of its property development units received some aid from another property giant called Hobson Development Group. I think the bid was for 40 billion Hong Kong dollars for 51% stake. So that's about a 40% premium to what the stock was trading before it was halted. If you look at some of Evergrande's other units, like their new energy vehicles, it was up 30% last month. That unit was not halted. So a little bit of relief for some of its, since Evergrande's a huge conglomerate, it was a little bit of relief for a couple of their units. However, one of their jumbo bonds was supposed to receive interest payment last night. That did not happen. So technically, I'm not a bond guy, but that could constitute a formal default, at least legally on paper. But, there's a lot of interpretation on what that could mean, missed payment there. Still a lot of uncertainty there. Beijing, on the other hand, has been trying to say we're going to try to limit the fallout, but it looks like, the restructuring is still on schedule for Evergrande, but it's just going to be a little bit more complicated, and more parties will probably step in, as you saw last night. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is a very closely watched speech today. I mentioned it on Friday by the U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai. She's going to be talking about the Chinese tariffs that was put into place by the Trump administration and how China's fallen behind on their pledges. Then with whatever happened with COVID the last few years, she will also talk about, whether the U.S. will become tougher and whether they will introduce more tariffs on China. So that's a very closely watched speech at 10 o'clock this morning.
Phase one. Remember, every day, literally every day, I'd have to deal with this bullshit from Pump about the pending trade deal. We're still on phase one, and he's not involved. It's amazing. That was actually, it's interesting, unless you made me aware of that last week, I wouldn't have been paying attention to it this morning. It's, top 3 story on the Asian side of my morning queue, just what I do is, as a matter of process, is I just scan and screen for all the headlines, like the consensus ones, and that her name is everywhere on the Asian side. I guess they're really interested with their holiday week. I guess they're interested in terms of how aggressive we are and in terms of criticizing them or not. Is that a fair shake?
Yeah,
yes.
I don't know her background that well. She has been tough on China in the past, based on what I know. And, obviously what's going on also with a lot of other external factors that's going on with China relations, she has to take that into in consideration. But like you said, Keith, things are falling behind on what China promised from a trade phase one perspective. But then China, I think, came back and said, well, there's supply chain disruptions and there was COVID and other things that may have impacted the phase one deal. So we'll have to see how her tone is. The tone is really important because
that's what I meant.
Yeah, last week there was a little bit of back off from some of the White House officials regarding China. They wish China, the national holiday from another one of the diplomats on Capitol Hill. So people were thinking, well, that's nice. It's a little bit of a change in tone versus previous years. So we'll see how Catherine talks today at 10 o'clock. It'll be a closely watched speech.
Yeah, and Keith, and this is supposed to be, we've waited, I think, for 7 or 8 months for sort of the Biden policy on China So this is the culmination of 6-7 months of internal discussions, and it's supposed to be an outline of the administration's new paradigm for U.S. engagement with China. But at the same time, this is the, as you said, with tone. At the same time, she's likely to blast the Chinese for falling short on phase one. I mean, they are, I think, 50 or 60% behind on energy purchases. They haven't met all of their ag purchases. So I don't know how she's going to walk that fine line. But I do know that from talking to Chad Bown, is one of the people that's been writing on this and speaking on this. He's one of our previous speakers. He has said that the tariffs are going to continue, and that they're considering new tariffs as well if China doesn't clean up its act. So it is going to be a massive straddle in that, they want to re-engage China with this new, effort, this new strategy. At the same time, they're going to continue to be critical. So that it is going to be an interesting balance that she's going to have to strike today.
Well, think about that. I mean, the Chinese, Pump's big deal was basically, I used to call it the bean deal. They're just going to buy a bunch of our shit, soybeans in particular. But now the Chinese, they have a stagflation problem, and they're trying to sell commodities, or not trying to. They are selling commodities in the open market. So what are they going to do? They're going to sell 30,000 tons of copper and then turn around and honor a U.S. trade deal and buy 20,000 tons of copper? They're in a really tough spot relative to what they're trying to achieve domestically, and trying to tone down the inflation of things.
Hey there, Hedgeye Nation, or if you're not part of Hedgeye Nation, thanks for watching Hedgeye on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to click on the button below there. Subscribe to our YouTube page. You can also follow the link in the description to our website to get even more great investing content.